My guest for the advice segment of Down to Business is Gary Baxley, president of Baxley Development. Gary has spent 35 years in real estate, with 27 of those years devoted to development. His focus is always on the marriage of functionality with the finest design, and his buildings have won numerous awards in the industry. Gary, welcome to Down to Business.
Thank you very much, Michael.
I have a very specific question to ask you. What is an office condo?
An office condominium, in its simplest form, is we build an office building and we utilize plats with the State Department of Assessments, and we, in effect, carve up the office building into individual units or suites that are owned fee simple when you purchase them. And then the balance of the building and the parking is typically a common element owned by undivided interest with all of the owners in the building.
Now, when and why did this concept gain traction?
I can't really speak to exactly when. I can tell you that my first project that I ever developed back in 1982 was a pretty large office condominium. So I suspect it was probably somewhere in the mid-70s that it actually started gaining a little traction.
Now, prior to our economic conditions, which we'll talk about in a second, were business owners that lease space inclined to want to convert them to office condominiums?
You don't see all that many conversions of condominiums. It's a whole different ballgame when you start talking about retrofitting existing buildings and whatnot. So most of my experience and most, I think, of people in the business have been from ground up, new development, so that we can really control all the elements of the construction and the development process at that point versus not knowing what's behind the wall or whatnot.
What's been the economic impact on the market at this point?
In regards to?
Is it overbuilt? Are people are tenants trying to opt out at this point?
That's a very good question. I think that the condominium marketplace in any given sub-market is a finite market. It's a determination of entrepreneurs and whatnot in the market who have a proclivity to purchase versus lease. I think that this particular sub-market that we're in, and I'll say Howard County, we'll call it our sub-market, has an awful lot of entrepreneurs who are realizing the value that ownership brings versus leasing. So I think that there's still traction, albeit with a contraction in the economy. That traction gets a little slower, but there is some traction still.
Now, has financing dried up? Because I've been hearing SBA is not really wanting to do these kinds of deals anymore in the 7A program.
No, actually, it's just the opposite.
Is it really?
Yeah, you've been hearing, and everybody's been reading in the newspapers how all the financing institutions are not making loans and whatnot. And I think it probably, if on a larger segment and the larger banks, that may be true. But clearly, for this product, the office condominium product, it's an owner-occupied piece of real estate. Very aggressive banks, very aggressive rates, and still plenty of money available for purchase.
And are there deals to be had out there that may have been better than the deals you would have gotten 2 years ago?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
What kind of, can you talk a bit about some of the terms that are drastically different than what they were before the economy went south?
Yes. I would say that if you looked at the condominium market beginning in, say, 2004, it spiked up in 2004 through 2008 at probably, believe it or not, 15 to 20% a year in pricing. So that we were looking at pricing that was getting into the mid-threes up to the upper threes. I think now what you've got with the contraction in the economy is a slight downturn to where an average price would be somewhere between $275, $300 a square foot. So we've had that 20% or so correction, I think, with this contraction.
And what is your expectation with regard to this market for 2010?
I think that we're all our fingers are crossed in the real estate development business that we're going to get a lot of energy from BRAC, and there's going to be offshoots that we don't even really know about at this point. We're all hoping it's going to be positive, and some of it's going to spill over in many different areas. And I'm hoping that that defense community will actually look at the ownership vehicle, which is historically they really haven't looked at.
Now, we've got about 30 seconds left. Is there any final words of wisdom you'd like to give to any entrepreneur or business owner contemplating a lease-buy decision at this point?
I would say that it's incumbent upon yourself, if you're out in the marketplace looking at a lease, even if you've got great terms and conditions, to look at what's available to purchase under the terms and conditions that are available, run a complete analysis, or have your broker or the developer run an analysis for you, showing a lease versus ownership analysis to show you exactly what it looks like in the long haul.
And that will be our last word. Gary, I want to thank you for being with us today. It was good having you here. And when the economy turns a little bit, we'll get you back.
Always a pleasure.
My guest has been Gary Baxley, president of Baxley Development. We'll be right back.
Explore new worlds. Read. Visit literacy.gov and let the journey begin.
My featured entrepreneur is Carol Morrison, Advanced Virtual Call Center. After 12 years as a school teacher, Carol began working with small companies and entrepreneurs to address their real estate needs. She joined the Howard County Economic Development Authority as director of the Neotech Incubator and oversaw its construction in 1999. After 10 years of success, including several international awards, Carol has decided to pursue an entrepreneurial opportunity in her 70s. Carol, welcome to Down to Business.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I hadn't thought about it until after I started working with the companies and helping them, and then also because I wanted to get away from an 8-to-5 job, and now I have a 12-to-12 job.
Reality.
Reality set in. But I had worked with entrepreneurs for the last 23 years, actually, first doing the physical space piece.
But why now? I mean, why at this point in your life?
Well, there are a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm not type of person to retire. And the other, my husband says if I retire, I have to give up my cleaning lady.
Oh, well, that you can't do that. You can't do that. How is the transition to entrepreneurship going at this point?
It is going great. It is going great. I am so pleased with what we're doing. The virtual call center is not virtual at the moment.
Okay.
We are still doing work with health analytics in their space.
And that's your partner, correct?
That's my partner
Okay.
in the JV, which has not been named at the moment. And we hope by the end of November, the 1st of December, to be able to go virtual.
Did you have any issues getting this business off the ground? Any challenges that you faced?
Well, of course there are challenges.
What kind of challenges?
Oh, the equipment is a big challenge there. How to make everything connect with security and following HIPAA regulations. So that has been a real problem.